Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Conscious Business Coffee Break, where we take a few moments to explore what's happening in the conscious business movement, expand awareness, and encourage your efforts in conscious business. Greetings, everyone. My name is Stephen Donaco of the Conscious Business Enterprise, a division of Humanities team. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the rights of personhood, quote unquote, granted to non-person entities, such as companies, corporations, creations that are non-human, basically. So, and this is an old idea, as many of you are likely aware, that from a legal standpoint, a corporation in many countries, and this is actually a good question. I would wonder if all across the world this is true, but certainly it's true in the United States, and I know it's true in other countries as well, where a company is considered to have the same rights as a person. This idea of corporate personhood. And it's very odd, baffling in a lot of ways to me, and it's frustrating just in general from the perspective of how people are treated in relation to how companies are treated in the markets, in the legal system, and so forth. And what led me to bring this up as the topic was an article in the Independent about the Colombian government that had ruled to protect the Amazon rainforest by giving it the legal rights of a person, and this was Colombia's Supreme Court had made this decision, and the subheadline says it marks a precedent in terms of climate change litigation. So when I look at this article, I'm thinking that when we think about being in business and who is in business, now of course the who in business is employees, managers, employees, executives, owners, and so forth. And then we could think of other people in business like partners. So those partners can be suppliers, vendors, anyone that you would even outsource work to outside of the company. Okay, so and in pondering this, where does all this happen? Business happens in the world, and the world is on Earth. And we would not exist to do business if we weren't based on this planet. So really, truly, we can consider another partner in our business to be the planet. And actually, the planet is like the major partner, and looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, the highest partner is the highest power, whether you call that God or spirit or source or universe. But nevertheless, the planet is certainly where we're doing business, and where we have our businesses on the land. We use resources from the land, and why wouldn't we consider the land to be a partner in business as well? So this is where it's really hopeful to start to see this court ruling where the governments are waking up and granting personhood status to the land, to the earth. And actually a year ago, so there was a similar article or a similar situation a year ago where a river in New Zealand was granted the rights of personhood. And this is in recognition, again, that the land and our resources are part of who we are. I mean, we don't exist as people if it weren't for the resources that feed us and sustain us on Earth. And the story in New Zealand, the river was granted personhood legally because a tribe, an indigenous tribe in New Zealand, considers the river to be its ancestor because it does provide for the people. and that was that was their argument. That was what inspired them to pursue this case to grant the river personhood status. And what I really at the end of the article, and I'll post these articles in the description or in the comments to this video when I'm done. Basically, the New Zealand, the tribe says we can trace our genealogy to the origins of the universe. And rather than us being masters of the natural world, we are part of it. We want to live like that as our starting point. What a concept, right? And that is not anti-development. So this is, recognizing that the land is here for us to use, but not to abuse. So we're stewards of the land and not just extractors of it. So he goes, this is not anti-development or anti-economic use of the river, but to begin with the view that it is a living being, and then consider its future from that central belief. So, when we can look at, and if we generalize that idea out to people working in business, how many businesses, how many companies have essentially burned through people? Basically get what they can out of people, and as long as the people are willing to take it, they'll take it. And then once they're exhausted or they no longer have the energy to perform, they're just tossed to the side. So in conscious business, of course, all of these things are being transformed to recognize that, in oneness, we are all interrelated, and that the way we treat one another in business and the way that we treat the land on which we do business, it all comes back to us. Everybody and everything is a mirror for who we are. So if we choose, consciously or unconsciously, to abuse people in the land, we're abusing ourselves at the end of the day. If instead we wake up, we do the inner cleaning up, and then we show up and regard all of our partners on Earth, regardless of what role and where they stand on the org chart of life, if you will, wherever they are in the hierarchy of business. If we treat everyone and every piece of land on which we do business and from which we draw our resources as sacred and as special and with love, that becomes a mirror of our inner best nature. So we go forward and we not only sustain, but we flourish, we prosper, and we continue to be generative instead of extractive. And as you know, if you've been watching these programs, I'm in Valparaiso, Indiana, in the Midwest U.S., and there's an arboretum out here called Tall Tree, which was created as a way to bring back natural habitat to lands that had been previously farmed, and a lot of the natural settings, a lot of the natural things like the ponds and the grasslands, and the prairies, and the forest on the land were essentially farmed away 100 years ago, and through the efforts of the family that founded Tall Tree Arboretum, as well as gifts of land from other people who formerly had farms, or their families did, they've restored the earth. So we know that that's possible too, is that we can take land that has been used and perhaps abused by business and to regenerate it through the power of our love and the power, frankly, of our life. So I will give you links to all of these articles and this information in the comments to the video. In the meantime, thank you as always for joining me here at Fluid Coffee Bar in Valparaiso, Indiana. I appreciate them giving me the space to do the program. We'll see you on Friday, 9 a.m. U.S. Central Time, for another edition of the Conscious Business Coffee Break. Talk to you soon.